YouTube, this is Pecktec, and this episode is going to be all about answering your questions. Now, I think a lot of us get into making these videos to help other people along, but if you don't answer the questions that the viewers put out, then why are you doing it, really? I mean, that interaction, I am a strong believer in that interaction, and I really, I try to say thank you as much as I can when people say, oh, hey, great video. I try to answer questions the best I can. I don't always know the answer, and I don't know all the answers to the questions that I'm going to put up today, but I'm going to put them up there and just tell you. I thought it would be a fun episode just to kind of like give a shout out and kind of throw some of these questions that I get up on here and answer them the best I can. And we'll just get right into it here. I've got them all loaded on my laptop, and we're going to take a look right now. I had these questions in order at one point, but I think I've kind of messed that up. So I wanted to do them chronologically from like 2 weeks ago when I started kind of collecting these on up, but that's not going to happen because I did not label them properly. Always label properly. Okay, so first question is from oh my god, I cannot pronounce this name. I'm just going to put that up. I'll put it up here. Okay. It was on the Flooville Spec 5-gallon video, and I'm thinking of getting one. Thanks for the vid. Do you have, or do you know what the energy consumption of this model is? No. No, I don't. If I look it up and I find the answer to that, I'll post it right here. Next question. The next one's from Caitlin T. Adrian. It's about the Mexican dwarf crayfish. Is this female? You know, at one point I knew how to determine the sex of those crayfish, but I believe this one is a male. I can't remember though. I can't remember, and that crayfish actually passed away a while back, so I don't even have it to look at now. But no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but there are. It seems like someone pointed out there was a really easy way to tell the difference between those, but I'm sorry, I just don't know. Alright, and a question from Amanda Neal. I love watching your videos. In fact, for the past few weeks, I've been watching them over and over and hope that I'd get a good knowledge of how to prepare for a future tank. I'm thinking of getting the Flooville Spec 2.6 gallon since it seems to be beginner friendly. But everyone seems to have a complaint about the lighting. Have you changed the lighting since? And what replacement did you use? Well, on the original Flooville Spec, which is just the 2-gallon, my LED light went out or just started flickering. The power brick actually broke apart on it right at the wall. And it's got like a little power, we call them wall warts, you know, a little power brick that goes into the wall, and then the cord would plug into that. Well, I replaced it with a Tom's little 7-watt compact fluorescent light, and it's been doing really well. So there's that. Now on the 2.6 gallon, that light is still doing pretty well. As far as how bright it is, if it's bright enough, I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the edge. I mean, I think it's probably okay, and I'm going to give it a little bit more time before I finally make that decision. I have contemplated making a new light for it. I've been playing around, or wanting to play around with some LEDs, like from Rapid LEDs, and making my own lights and that sort of thing. So I might do that in the future, and one of those will probably get the treatment if I do that, especially the small spec. But another thing is, you said as a beginner tank, I actually don't recommend anything under 20 gallons for a beginner. I really think you should start with a tank that's got a little bit more volume than that. Now you can do the Flooville Spec, of course, for a beginner tank. I mean, if it's your first tank, if that's all the space you've got, then sure. But remember that the small tanks are actually harder to keep than the large tanks. The larger the tank you get, the better you're going to be in the long run. And if you're just getting started, I want you to start off right. So go for a 30-gallon or a 20-gallon or something like that, and try that while you get comfortable with keeping aquariums. Hal Sierra. I'm probably pronouncing that right. If I pronounce any of your names wrong, I apologize, okay? How do you have time to keep to do the maintenance on all these fish tanks? Well, my fish tank maintenance is about 2 hours once a week. And it's a nice Saturday or Sunday thing to do. It really doesn't take that long with a Python water changer. Every now and then it'll get into like a 3-hour ordeal. But that's mainly if my plants have become overgrown, if I got a lot of trimming. And what I tend to do is every week I kind of focus on one particular tank. And eventually everything gets done. So 1 or 2 tanks get the treatment, while the rest just get a plain water change and a filter change. And 1 or 2 of them I'll do a little bit extra maintenance, you know, to kind of keep the plants looking good. So that's how. Okay, and another question from Jackson Bolt. It says, hey, I love your tanks. What's that big black fish behind your apisto? Okay, that one must have been from my update video. And the big black fish in there, I didn't call him out. I just watched that again and realized it. It is an African bushfish. PetSmart sells them as leaf fish, but there's another fish whose common name is the leaf fish, so I don't think it's quite the same. Yeah, African bushfish. I got him. He was like this big at PetSmart, and I warn you, if you do get them, they will eat anything like female guppy or smaller. Will go right into their mouth and they'll eat them at night. They may swim around with them during the day, but all night long you're going to hear ploop, 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 because he just takes them out. So the rainbows and that, well, actually that little cockatoo cichlid's probably about the smallest fish that I'm going to put in there, unless, you know, of course it's meant to be food. Okay, this next question is from Yen Kin Chen. And this was on the Aquarium Plants for Beginners video. He says, do we need CO2 for this? And what about dosing? How do we go about that? Well, here's the thing. This was a video about beginning aquarium plants. Beginner aquarium plants, in my opinion, shouldn't need dosing and shouldn't need CO2. So that's not really, that's a little bit out of scope for that video. Now, I do add a little bit of iron to most of these tanks, and I'm about to really get heavy into CO2, but I'm saving that for a later video. So my aquarium maintenance video shows exactly what I do as far as dosing goes, and really there's not much to it. I think a lot of people put a lot more thought into it than I do. About once a week, like this guy gets a cap full of Flourish iron, and maybe if I have some on hand, I'll have some micronutrients to throw in there too. But that's the long and short of it. And I guess fodder for another great video down the road. So we'll see. Zabias O. I like that. Zabias O. Okay, so this question was, did I miss how to remove the plantlets from the Java fern leaf? How do you do this? I've got about 30 plantlets and I'm not sure how to remove them. Okay, so the baby Java fern, they tend to grow on the dead leaves of the Java fern. So I think in nature what happens is eventually that dead leaf deteriorates and they just kind of fall out and they float around till they find a place to attach some other way. You can just pluck them right off there though. Especially, I tend to wait till that leaf is looking like really kind of ratty, and I'll pluck them all off of the leaf and then just remove the dead part. So that's how. You just kind of gently pull them apart. Oh, and here's another question from Zabias. Oh, okay. I'm a bit confused. Does that glass lid come off? How would you ever catch a fish from that tiny square area? Oh my. Okay, and this is from, of course, the Flooville Edge, one of the Flooville Edge videos. No, it does not come off. It's all encased. It's one thing, and the answer is really, really, really hard. And the next question is from Cleo. I cannot pronounce the last name at all. And he says, do you think that I can place a balloon molly in my Flooville Edge with crystal red shrimp? Well, the answer is probably yes, so long as there's a place for them to hide. Now, every fish is a little different, and I've had fish that don't go after the cherry reds that probably should, like rams and stuff like that. And I've had fish that you know, will go after them even though you don't think they would, like a guppy, like especially the female guppies. So I'll tell you what, make sure they got a place to hide. Maybe start off with some cherry red shrimp instead of the crystal reds, which are real expensive. and just kind of see how they react to each other. You know, if it doesn't seem to be a problem with the cherry red shrimp, your crystals will probably do just fine. Kyle Kazar asked this question from the Flooville Edge maintenance video. What kind of gravel cleaner do you use? I have a Flooville Edge 6-gallon, and the Flooville gravel cleaner just seems too big, and I haven't gotten it to work properly by pumping it. Well, the Flooville one that they make is a bit longer, I think, than it ought to be, and really the secret is to go get a really short, stubby one. The ones I have are generic PetSmart gravel cleaners. For the most part, I use my Python, and I don't use them much at all, but I do have an extremely it's a little bit thicker than the one I showed in that video, but it's really small. It's perfect for the 6-gallon. You're just gonna have to shop around. I bet if you got on eBay, you'll find like 100 different kinds of these little things. But just look for, instead of a long narrow tube for where you go in, to get a shorter one, you're gonna have to reach in the tank a little bit more. But trust me, it'll be a lot easier to get that siphon going. I'm Croak asks, is that huge plant on the right only one Anubis? Now this is from the Flooville Edge video, and yes, there's actually only 3 plants in that tank. There's two types of Anubis, and then a small sword plant that's never done well in any tank I've done. It just gets to a small bush. I guess it just needs more light. I might be transplanting that one and putting in another one. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, just one plant. It started off as a tiny little PetSmart plant, and it just grew and grew and grew. And it's great in there. I love it. And another question from Daniel, whatever this last name is, on the Stalking the Flooville Edge video. I noticed a few people have commented that betas are working fine in this setup. Well, that's true. I've gotten a lot of comments that say their betas do just fine in there. And so that's something to consider. Now, I haven't tried it yet, but if you're wondering if you could probably put a beta in the Flooville Edge, maybe. I think a lot of people seem to have done well with that, so that's interesting to hear. And here's a question from Lethal X Lunacy from the video Flooville Spec 5-gallon unboxing and setup. I just got one of these the other day, and I have the 2-gallon version as well. But this has been significantly noisier, and I have it in my room, and it's been bugging me. Ironically, the 2-gallon next to my bed on the nightstand doesn't bother me at all. This 5-gallon one is against the opposite wall of my room, and I can hear it buzzing away. Ugh, I don't know what to do about it. Well, you might want to make sure that the suction cups on the bottom of the pump are connected. If it's just sitting in there vibrating, it could be rattling against the wall of your tank. Now, I'm not sure exactly what sound that you're hearing. Mine are both very, very quiet, and I don't know, you could have a bad pump. It could be that the pump's rattling against something else, but I'm not really sure what to tell you on that one. Mine is very quiet. I can tell you it's not supposed to sound that way, so yeah, you might want to play with that one a little bit and see what you get. Pablo Escobar, what plant foods and supplements do you use in your well-planted 55 and 30 gallon? How do you keep algae away? I'd love to have a tank like that with no CO2. Okay, so the Flooville or the aquarium maintenance video that I did before will show the dosing ritual I go through, which is basically adding some iron. I just covered this a second ago. Adding a little bit of iron and some other supplements. But as far as keeping the algae away, it's just heavy plant growth. The other thing to keep in mind is that these tanks are very mature. They've been going for almost 9 years. 9 years of growth and balancing and stuff. So these tanks are well established. A well-established tank shouldn't have a tremendous amount of algae. I'm breaking a few rules with these because they're actually get direct sunlight during part of the day. Like 3 or 4 hours of the day, sunlight pours in through the windows and they get really bright in there. So it's been tricky. I have a lot of the fish that I add tend to eat algae. That helps a little bit. I add a lot of shrimp and things like that to kind of help with the algae growth. In the 30 gallon, I put a giant wad of Java moss just on one side of the aquarium, and I've just let it grow and grow and grow, and it sort of blocks all the other light that comes through The Java moss is a great hiding place for all the shrimp, and it keeps the light from like pouring right through the aquarium, causing a lot of algae growth. But the real trick is patience, maturity, letting that tank get older, old enough to kind of take care of itself and get well balanced. And as far as nutrients, I add very few nutrients. Water changes are probably the best way to add a little extra minerals to your water for those plants to eat. Okay, the next one is from Tolga Irok. Nice video. You mentioned using various substrates, and the one that caught my interest was just using the normal gravel for the planted tanks. I've been using RUGF, which I guess means a regular under gravel filter, maybe, okay. On my MT50 Aqua World for a few years, and stopped vacuuming my gravel about 2 months. But with the addition of the plants, some ferns, no idea, I used the liquid CO2 Excel and some generic plant fertilizer, but my plants seem to take a long time to grow and flourish. Would the addition of fertilizer tabs help, or do I need to place real soil type in the substrate? Well, the first thing is the under gravel filters are not ideal environments for the plants. The plants roots can grow into that little open space where it's just all nasty, where under the under gravel filter, and they rot when they hit that. So really your best bet, even if you only use plain gravel, is to pull up that under gravel filter, come up with another way to filter your water. Probably a hang on the back filter or a canister filter or pretty much anything else. The under gravel filters are old school, and they do still work to some degree, but technology has gone a long ways past those, and I think you'll be a lot happier if you just switch from an under gravel filter to something else. In fact, things like tabs that go into your gravel, and those things will be worthless because they'll just be sucked away through the under gravel. So my recommendation to you is whatever substrate you decide to use, get rid of that under gravel filter and put a hang on the back filter or a canister filter on there, and kind of start from there. That'll help your plants a lot. Rosa Secura, I know this is an old video. No, it's not. But do you know if the Flooville tanks usually come with heaters? No, none of them have come with a heater yet. They do sell them separately. There are a few fish in a few areas of the country where you wouldn't really need a heater, so I guess that's why they don't sell them with one. But no, so far none of the Flooville tanks that I've ever purchased have come with a heater. Okay, and another question from Dylan Tommy Natural Aquatics, and he wants to know if that's a TARDIS in my 55 and if I'm a Doctor Who fan. The answer is yes, and yes, very much so. Okay, last question, and this one's from Max Hardy, and he's talking about the Flooville Edge 12-gallon. Hi, I love your reviews, and I was wondering about how the cables work with this tank. Would it be possible to put the air tube into the tank for an air stone to work? The answer is yes. There's room in there. You can slide an air line in and add an air stone. You're going to get a lot of bubbles on the top part, depending on where you put the air stone. But yes, that's completely possible. Go for it. Well, that's about it for today. Thanks for stopping by. I wanted to let you know, if you haven't seen the interview I did with the Rick, he's interviewing a lot of YouTube fish keepers, and I was just lucky to be among the people that he talked to. If you'd like to know a little bit more about me, a little bit more about a lot of these other guys that are just terrific, be sure to check out that series. This is video number 7 of my promised 37 videos this year. I've got a lot more to come. I've got a lot of cool stuff in the works. I'm going to be in the garage kind of putting together some things for the next video for the next 2 weeks, so you probably won't see much from me for the next 2 weeks, but I'll be back soon with more, and I invite you to stick around. Talk to you later. Have a great day.